The greatest battle you will ever face is not against your competitor, but against the enemy within. That voice which whispers, "Stop," precisely when you should continue. Every day, countless souls stand at the precipice between mediocrity and magnificence, between the safety of the known and the uncertainty of potential greatness. I have observed this phenomenon for decades while studying the most successful individuals across industries and eras. The difference between those who achieve greatness and those who merely dream is not talent, education, or circumstance. It is the willingness to persist when every fiber of their being screams for retreat. Consider the miners who spend months digging for gold, only to abandon their claim when confronted with seemingly impenetrable rock. History reveals with cruel irony that many quit just 3 feet from gold. Had they persisted for one more day, one more hour, one more swing of the pickaxe, they would have broken through to unimaginable wealth. Instead, they retreated to comfort, selling their equipment for pennies on the dollar to those who understand this fundamental truth. Resistance is not a signal to stop, but rather confirmation you're on the right path. Your body and mind are programmed for survival, not success. When you push beyond your comfort zone, your entire system sounds alarms: mental fatigue, physical exhaustion, emotional doubt, all designed to return you to safety. This biological imperative served our ancestors well, but becomes the invisible chain that binds modern potential. Most people are like streams that follow the path of least resistance, meandering around obstacles rather than cutting through them. They may eventually reach their destination, but not before losing their force, their impact diluted by diversion. The achievers I've studied are like rivers that carve through mountains, gaining power from the very obstacles they overcome. I have interviewed thousands of successful men and women, and none, not a single one, achieved their success without first passing through a period of intense struggle that tested their resolve. Thomas Edison endured 10,000 failures before illuminating the world. Henry Ford faced bankruptcy and ridicule before revolutionizing industry. Helen Keller overcame disabilities that would have condemned others to a life of dependency to become a beacon of human potential. What separates these remarkable individuals? They recognized that fire does not just destroy, it transforms. Steel becomes strong only after enduring the forge. Diamonds form only under tremendous pressure. And human potential reveals itself only when tested by adversity. The mass of humanity treats discomfort as a warning to retreat. The achiever recognizes it as the necessary price of growth. The former lives lives of quiet desperation, wondering what might have been. The latter transforms the landscape of possibility through sheer persistence. I promise you this: if you learn to push through resistance rather than retreat from it, you will unlock capacities within yourself that you cannot currently imagine. The principles I am about to share have transformed ordinary individuals into titans of industry, leaders of nations, and architects of human progress. They are not complex, but they demand courage, the courage to keep going precisely when every instinct tells you to stop. What awaits you on the other side of persistence is not merely success, as the world defines it, wealth, recognition, achievement, but a transformation of character that transcends these temporal rewards. You will become the master of your fate rather than its victim, the captain of your soul rather than a passenger tossed by waves of circumstance. The difference between who you are today and who you could become tomorrow lies in your ability to persevere when persistence seems pointless. The techniques that follow will arm you with the mental fortitude to continue when others collapse, to advance when others retreat, and to transform resistance from your enemy into your greatest ally. Remember this: at the moment when the pain of continuing seems unbearable, you stand at the threshold of breakthrough. This is not poetic inspiration, but practical observation drawn from studying thousands of success stories. The darkest moment truly does come just before dawn, and those who can endure that darkness emerge into a light that the retreating masses never experience. Your very resistance to continuing, that voice urging surrender, that fatigue suggesting rest, that doubt questioning purpose, is not evidence that you should stop, but rather confirmation that you stand at the edge of transformation. This is where the ordinary person retreats, and the extraordinary person advances. This single decision, made repeatedly at crucial junctures, ultimately determines your destiny. I will now reveal to you the framework that will allow you to persevere when all seems lost, to maintain momentum when obstacles appear insurmountable, and to transform the very resistance that defeats others into the fuel that propels you forward. The journey ahead will not be easy, but I assure you it will be worth it. The foundation of all persistence is purpose. When your why is strong enough, you will always find your how. I have never met a person of great achievement whose accomplishments were not anchored in a purpose larger than themselves. Without this, even the most disciplined individual will eventually surrender to the path of least resistance. Purpose transforms obligation into opportunity and turns struggle into meaningful sacrifice. Consider Helen Keller, who could have accepted her blindness and deafness as justification for a limited life. Instead, she declared, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all." This purpose, to live daringly despite limitations, sustained her through frustrations that would have crushed a person driven merely by external rewards. When you link your persistence to a purpose that transcends comfort, money, or recognition, you tap into a wellspring of endurance that seems almost supernatural to the casual observer. The first principle of extraordinary perseverance is what I call definiteness of purpose. Vague aspirations produce half-hearted efforts. The successful individuals I've studied established crystal-clear objectives and committed to them with such intensity that retreat became more painful than advance. Thomas Edison did not simply wish to create something useful, but declared with precision his intention to create an incandescent lamp with specific properties. This clarity of purpose guided his 10,000 experiments, each failure merely eliminating one way that would not work, bringing him one step closer to success. The lesson is clear. Define your goal with such precision that your mind has no choice but to concentrate its full power upon its achievement. Motivation fades, crystallized purpose endures. The second principle is the development of an independent mind. The masses are easily swayed by temporary defeat, criticism, and doubt. The achiever develops mental immunity to these influences. When Ford was working on his V8 engine, his engineers unanimously insisted it was impossible to cast an 8-cylinder engine block in one piece. Had Ford allowed their collective certainty to override his independent vision, a revolution in automobile manufacturing would never have occurred. He famously told them, "Produce it anyway," and after months of seeming failure they did. The path to any worthy achievement is paved with skeptics, critics, and well-meaning advisors, urging caution. An independent mind evaluates input, but never surrenders its authority to outside opinion. The crowd follows the established path. The leader forges a new one. Consensus breeds mediocrity. Independent thinking breeds innovation. When you develop the habit of thinking for yourself, particularly when facing setbacks, you develop persistence that borders on stubbornness, the very quality that transforms visionaries into achievers. The third principle is the transmutation of failure. Every adversity contains the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit, but only for those trained to recognize and nurture it. Charles Darrow was unemployed during the Great Depression, struggling to support his family. Rather than surrendering to circumstances, he developed a board game based on buying and selling properties, Monopoly, which eventually made him a millionaire. His circumstantial failure became the catalyst for unprecedented success. Most people allow failure to diminish them. The exceptional allow it to develop them. They extract lessons, refine approaches, strengthen resolve. They understand that failure is not a person, but an event, not a destination, but education. The persistent individual develops the alchemist's skill of transforming the lead of setback into the gold of insight. Temporary defeat is the crucible of permanent success. The fourth principle is the mastermind alliance. No significant achievement occurs in isolation. The most persistent individuals surround themselves with minds that complement, challenge, and amplify their strengths. Edison had his team at Menlo Park. Ford had a cadre of committed engineers. Roosevelt had his cabinet. These alliances provided not just practical support, but the psychological reinforcement to persist when individual resolve wavered. When you build your mastermind, a group united in purpose and diversified in strength, you create a persistence multiplier that sustains momentum through inevitable challenges. The lone wolf may survive, but the pack thrives. Individual talent may spark innovation, but collective persistence fans it into a transformative flame. These principles form the framework of extraordinary persistence, but they require implementation through daily habits. The gap between knowing and doing is bridged only by disciplined action. Create daily rituals that reinforce your purpose. Review your definite objectives each morning. Exercise your independent mind by questioning assumptions. Transform setbacks into education through reflective analysis. Engage regularly with your mastermind alliance. Remember that persistence is not merely continuing. It is continuing with intelligence, learning and adjusting as you advance. The river does not overcome the mountain through brute force alone, but through consistent application of pressure at the most effective point. So must you apply your persistence strategically, focusing energy where resistance yields to determined effort. Every morning when you rise, remind yourself, persistence is to the character of man as carbon is to steel. Without sufficient persistence, you remain soft and pliable, shaped by circumstance rather than shaping it. With persistence, you become hardened against adversity, capable of cutting through obstacles that defeat others. I have interviewed countless individuals blessed with brilliant minds, exceptional education, and favorable circumstances who achieved little because they retreated at the first sign of resistance. I have also known people of ordinary intelligence and limited resources who achieved extraordinary outcomes through sheer persistence. Intelligence without persistence creates unrealized potential. Persistence without intelligence creates wasted effort. The combination intelligent persistence creates unstoppable force. As you develop these qualities, you will begin to notice a profound shift. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming become merely interesting problems to solve. Criticism that once stung becomes background noise to your focused purpose. Temporary defeats that once suggested permanent failure become valuable course corrections. The external world does not change, but your relationship to it transforms completely. You now stand at the threshold of a profound shift in consciousness. Until now, we have discussed persistence as a practical virtue, a means of achieving worldly success. But there exists a dimension beyond the material, where persistence transcends strategy and becomes spiritual transformation. Let us now explore this ultimate expression of human potential. Look within yourself at this moment. Where in your life are you stopping short of gold? What dream have you abandoned because the resistance seemed too great? What mountain have you decided was too high to climb? Be honest. This conversation is between you and your highest potential. What you perceive as unbearable resistance is not an obstacle to your progress, but the very means of your transformation. This is the profound truth that separates those who merely exist from those who truly live. Struggle is not something to be avoided on the path to greatness. It is the path itself. Consider the butterfly emerging from its chrysalis. The struggle to break free develops the very strength in its wings necessary for flight. Well-meaning observers, witnessing this apparent agony, might be tempted to cut open the chrysalis, to ease the struggle. Yet this misguided mercy would doom the butterfly. For without the strengthening struggle, its wings would never develop the power to carry it aloft. So it is with you. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, has designed growth to require resistance. This is not cruel, it is the ultimate kindness. For what you seek is not merely external achievement, but internal transformation, and transformation occurs only through persistent effort against resistance. You are not a static being, but a dynamic process, constantly becoming. Every challenge you face is not separate from your journey, but integral to it. The fire that threatens to consume you is actually forging you. The weight that seems to crush you is actually strengthening you. The doubt that appears to undermine you is actually defining you. When you truly understand this, persistence is no longer a discipline you force upon yourself, but the natural expression of who you are becoming. You persist not because you should, but because you must, because to retreat would be to deny your own evolution. Your struggles are not random misfortunes, but sacred invitations to become more than you were before. Each resistance encountered is a doorway to a new dimension of yourself, previously inaccessible. The universe places before you only those challenges you are ready to transform through. Feel this truth. Breathe it in. Let it permeate every cell of your being. You were born for resistance. Your heart grows stronger not in comfort, but under exertion. Your mind grows sharper, not through ease, but through challenge. Your soul grows deeper, not through pleasure, but through meaningful suffering transformed by purpose. The ancients understood this. They spoke of the hero's journey, the call, the trials, the transformation, and the return. Modern psychology confirms it. Post-traumatic growth occurs when individuals emerge from adversity not merely restored but expanded in capacity, compassion, and purpose. What stands before you now is not merely a goal to be achieved, but an identity to be claimed. When you persist beyond normal limits, you demonstrate to yourself a truth that changes everything. You are not defined by circumstances, but by your response to them. Take action now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when resistance diminishes. The moment of power is always the present moment. Identify the resistance you currently face and move toward it deliberately, consciously, even gratefully. Transform your relationship with struggle from adversary to ally. Practice saying, "This resistance is not happening to me. It is happening for me." Watch how this simple shift in perspective releases energy previously consumed by resentment and redirects it toward creative persistence. Remember, the fire that refines gold also consumes straw. The same resistance that develops greatness in some destroys others, not because of its intensity, but because of their response. Choose refinement over destruction by embracing rather than evading the necessary heat of transformation. You stand now at a crossroads between who you have been and who you might become. The path of least resistance leads back to familiar limitation. The path of purposeful persistence leads forward to undiscovered possibility. The choice before you is not merely about achieving something external, but becoming someone internal. When future generations speak of you, let them say not merely that you succeeded, but that you transformed. Not just that you persisted, but that you transcended. Not simply that you endured, but that you evolved. For in the eternal accounting of a life well lived, what matters is not what you accumulated, but what you became in the process. And what you can become through intelligent, purposeful persistence is nothing less than the highest expression of human potential, a living demonstration of the infinite capacity of the human spirit to overcome, to create, and to transform. The struggles you face today are writing tomorrow's testament to your character. Make it a story of triumphant persistence, of obstacles transformed into opportunities, of resistance alchemized into renaissance. Force yourself to keep going, not because success awaits, but because transcendence beckons. The gold you seek is not merely in the achievement, but in the becoming, and what you are becoming through persistence is nothing less than the hero of your own legend, a legend that will inspire others long after your journey is complete. This is your moment. Embrace the resistance. Forge ahead.